the historical moments of time, not only to fight the virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal.
History would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
We have a climate emergency which we can't walk away from. There's no doubt that the very survival of the human race requires us to act.
Everything is kind of interlinked together. Food systems contribute to a third of global greenhouse gases. Food systems are a problem, but they're also a solution.
We have to live up to the expectations which we have created, and we will do so.
Many of the great disasters of our time have been committed by experts. You may remember.
There is nothing wrong with your screen. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling the messaging in this transmission. We will tell you the topics you may speak about. We will remove any speech we deem unfit. We will identify and protect you from all that is evil. You need only to put your full trust in us. We are the government, and we are here to help.
All right, everybody, how are we today? Jack has been having some technical issues, so I don't know if you don't know Jack's story. He's out in the sticks in Georgia, and these internet speeds are not exactly conducive to live. So I'm hoping to get Jack back here shortly. He looks freeze frame there, but for now, I'm going to let him go figure that out. So, so anyway, we wanted to get into this today. As soon as Jack gets back on, we'll open the discussion on it. Until then, feel free to post any questions. We are not streaming on Rumble today. We are on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So we will post, as you can see here from Scott Morris. Appreciate that, Scott. Here's to a phenomenal podcast. Salud. We got Sheila here. Hey, finally got on. All right. So Sheila has not been, despite jumping on all the time, she hasn't gotten on to, they haven't been giving her alerts, which has been happening to a lot of people. So if you haven't gotten alerts, let us know, because we really want to know, number one, if it's something that's going on dubiously, or if there's something that we could be doing to try and fix that. I'm not sure that we have any control over that, but it is what it is. But for those of you who saw the previous podcast that we did, and this one was on the WEF, and I'm doing a series with this now where we're going to walk you guys through and just sort of give you some ammunition when you're trying to talk to that friend who won't listen and thinks you're crazy, and you're trying to tell that person, like, no, they're telling us, it's not an Alex Jones website. This is actual people who are doing the conspiracy, saying that it's not even a conspiracy because they're telling you, right? You're trying to get it through to them, but they just refuse and are in denial. That series is designed to help walk you through that website of theirs and really get a feel for what they're telling you. And the last one we did was the Food Innovation Hubs. And the Food Innovation Hubs, what was interesting there were a few things that tied in, right? Because the first one was modern monetary theory, and we kind of got into with Stephanie Kelton, who's there like main doo-doo, who travels the country doing TED Talks and everything else, telling everybody about how the government can just print money endlessly and it doesn't matter. She explained in the video that we did with her that what taxes really are, right? And that blew my mind, because when I was listening to modern monetary theory, the one thing that I was thinking to myself is, so what the hell are we paying taxes for? and she hinted at what it was, but then I found that clip of her explaining exactly what it was. And it's what's important to understand is it's not even just the Marxists who believe this. Like Dick Cheney back in the 80s when they were in the arms race, like Dick Cheney believes this too. Like this is something that's ingrained in the minds of government is that they can continue, the deficits don't matter, that debt doesn't matter, that if you have a fiat currency, you can just keep printing money. And the only reason you need to tax people is so that you can control inflation and pull money back out of the system is one reason. The other reason is to control behavior. If you want someone to do X, Y, and Z, then you either tax the hell out of X, Y, and Z, or you rip all the taxes off of X, Y, and Z, depending if you want them to do it or not do it, right? And that's the piece that came up in the food innovation hubs was that when we went through that website, and I encourage everyone to go back and check that out. When we went through that website, the PDF that's on there basically lists off for what the government should do, what the government shouldn't do, what the private sector should do, what everybody should do. And under the government, when the WEF lists off what the government should and shouldn't do, one of the things that shows up multiple times is change people's behavior, change stakeholder behavior through taxation by manipulating the tax code. All right. So it's really going to be an informative series. And, there's really no denying it when you get to go, once you start realizing where to look and you get to show somebody, look, this is what they're telling you. Right. And because they don't believe you. Right. And it's frustrating. It really frustrated me. And I know that trying to read their website is not an easy task. It's kind of sick, actually. So it's just a bunch of word soup. And then all of a sudden, they tell you something you're looking to hear, or they're telling you something that makes you jump back a little bit. All right. So we got Jack. I guess we went on the phone camera here, Jack?
Yeah, no choice. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little dark, but that's okay. That's all right.
It's been very sunny here, so I got a pretty good tan going on.
Yeah. All right. So, Jack, I don't know if you've been able to pick up what I was talking about, but I just gave a quick recap over the video I did with the walking people through that Food Innovations Hub website. The next one I do is going to be on the digital currency. So we've done monetary theory. We just did Food Innovation Hubs, and we're going to do digital currency next, which is the next creepy piece to the WEF puzzle, right? So, I mean, I don't know how, Jack, I don't know how much you've dug into the WEF website and really kind of sunk your teeth into it as far as different, but when you look at it, like, it's obvious, and like the document, even with the Food Innovation Hubs, like that document was done in 2020. January 2020, they published it. It's incredibly elaborate with, like, they've literally created their own language with stakeholder capitalism, carbon economies, and all, like, these are all made up terms that they created. Like, they literally created this whole language. And when you read through their website, they use their own terminology all the time. And it makes it really hard to figure out what the hell they're talking to. Like, you got to keep stopping and being like, well, what the hell's a carbon economy? You got to go look that up. Like, so it's not an easy read, which is why I just kind of dug through it and got rid of all the word soup and just sort of stuck to the stuff that mattered, like the fact that in 2020, they knew and were planning for farmers being put out of work. Like, they knew and were planning for ridiculous inflation in food prices. Like, they knew and were planning for supply chain shortages and all the, like, they knew and were planning. And again, this came out January 2020. They didn't just write that in January, you know what I'm saying? Like they clearly were planning that years in advance. And it's like, and everything about them, when you go through their website, it's so complicated that, like, it's obvious that they have been planning this for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. And, it's basically an extension of what Rockefeller put together back in the 30s when he, I even went darker right now.
Yeah. All I see is your cigarette ember.
Yeah, don't say that out loud. Well, my wife's not looking in yet right, on the podcast. But we'll make believe it's like what do they call it? Like a red dot, a laser. It's my laser pointer.
Yeah, they're targeting Jack, folks. They're targeting Jack.
Yeah, Soros got me. So,
Yeah, Soros got you.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean, it's really an extension of John D. Rockefeller and his public school system, and his statement. I don't want a nation full of thinkers. I want a nation full of workers, and he's proud of that. And look, I get some of it. It's very idealistic, and it is very above it all. And that's the issue I have with it. They're not doing anything in secret. They are convinced that what they're doing is correct and it will have a beneficial global impact regardless of the hardship. So when I say it's above it all, the thought process, at least the way it appears or occurs to me, is their thought process is, look, we're going to have to suck it up for a while, and it may cause issues and problems, but in the long run, it's all going to be better. But the fact of the matter is, they're not going to have to suck anything up for a while. We will.
Right.
And they could take down an entire retirement generation, right? Where everybody that's been planning to retire, myself, now all of a sudden everything goes away.
I think on the human level, the bigger concern is the starvation. So like this food shortage and food supply situation, it's not going to be. We're not going to starve here in the U.S. All right, like it's not. So that's not what I'm saying. It's not like they're going to starve everybody. They can't do that. But in the end, what it will happen is all the impoverished countries of the world, and they talk about them and they mention them on their website as the most vulnerable populations. Like, those areas are going to get devastated. Like, where in the United States and UK and other countries like that, Canada, like we'll be pissed off, we'll be yelling, we'll be screaming about food prices. Food prices will be ridiculous. I mean, they told us in that intro video, that meat will become a luxury, right? But of course, they're going to eat as much steak as they want, right? It's only for us that it's going to become a rare delicacy. They'll be eating steak every damn night. But in the end, it's the nations like in parts of Africa, right? There you go, Jack. We got you now. It's the nations like in parts of Africa where there's already a food supply chain issue. There's already problems, and now they're going to add this to it. Like this, to me, I've been waiting to try and figure out how this whole population reduction piece fits into their thinking, and because a lot of what they've been putting out, to me, requires there to be a decent amount of people around. They need minions, so to speak. You know what I mean? Right. And so like which one's right to what, I don't know. But now that I'm seeing this play out, I'm wondering if that's not a part of it. If it's not like, all right, yeah, well, we don't need to reduce the population everywhere. We could just eliminate all these countries that have starving people. We know how to end hunger. Let them starve. You know what I mean? And those are the people in this whole mess that I'm concerned for. Because the U.S., we can fend for ourselves. We have the infrastructure, like we have the infrastructure internally to fend for ourselves. It's just going to get really expensive. But for places like those places, some spots in the Middle East where food is already an issue, what happens to them? And yeah. It's curtains, the way I see it. And Brad Chandler here says, Facebook asked if I want to stop being notified of your stream. I've never seen that either. He says, never had that happen from anything I'm following. Yeah, Brad, I've never seen that either. And I'm not, that's crazy. We had a video go out this week and it's been on fire on Facebook, and we've added on another 500 or so. Whenever we get hot on this reset topic, it tends to burn hot, and videos tend to do well. And so when we put these out and we get these bursts, I think we added like 500 new followers in the last like 3 days. So it's almost like Facebook is going, do you really want to follow them? Like, are you sure? Because it's your first time. I want to make sure, like, because you could always say no. Like it's like, what the hell, dude? I don't know, man. But he said, Jack, you look like Hunter Biden in a dark parking lot.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, he said it got better though. It got better when you moved into the light. Oh God,
great.
I'm getting a kick out of these folks. All right, so yeah, and we'll get back on the reset. I mean, did you have anything to say? I'm sorry about because I jumped into the comment. Did you have anything to say about the last comment I made?
So refresh my memory. What was the last comment?
We were just talking about you know what? Let's move on. I want to move on because I wanted to move on anyway. And if you don't remember it, it ain't worth it. So the Trump situation. So now the FBI has been weaponized. This is the one that I really wanted to get to. We'll get back to the reset and get a little convention of states in there as well. Really, with this Trump situation, they've been weaponizing the friggin' DOJ, dude. Like, or I should say the DOJ has been weaponizing the entire bureaucracy to the point where it's now like, where does this end? No?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, without a doubt, they went in there and they were in there also back in September of last year. And I don't know if you remember that or not, but they went in. He was there at the time, and the FBI came in with a warrant. They went through some documents with him, and then they left. There wasn't a big deal made over it. This time, he wasn't there. They went in, and same statements. They were looking for documentation, supposedly that he took out of the White House, classified documentation that he was only allowed to be privy to during his tenure as president, and supposedly, that's what they're trying to find. Interestingly,
but now I was reading that they for some of this stuff, like I guess he had some stuff locked up in a room, and they had sent him a letter to better secure that room, and then they added padlocks to the room or something like that. Like, I'm a little confused as to what ex-presidents can and can't have with them. Like,
well, I think let's just say, let's just move that off to the side, because they even broke into a safe this time. But, you figure the day they do this, where is he? He's in New York, and what's he doing? He's in the middle of depositions where he's taken the Fifth Amendment. Why is he in the middle of depositions? Well, it's not a criminal case. That's another issue. This one's a civil case, and the New York district attorney is going after him from a civil standpoint, and really what it revolves around is whether or not he put together the proper financials when he was looking for loans to expand, different business interests. So this is obviously, very old. They're looking in and trying to pull out different paperwork.
What are they afraid of?
Well,
look, they're afraid of something. Like I don't care what you say. Like not that you said anything, but like I don't care what people say. But like when they sit there and say National Archives is asking like that's just nonsense, dude. The only thing it could be is two things in my mind. One, it's just a straight up attack to keep the fishing expedition going and hopefully find something that they could use to stop him from being able to run in 2024. Right. Or, or they're afraid. They're afraid that he actually has something that, that they're deathly worried that he can pull out. Like, not even that it's top secret or national security, but like something like evidence on him. You know what I mean? So like I'm not evidence on him, evidence that he has on them.
Right.
For something. You know what I mean? And I'm more and more started, because when they say to go in there under the guise of the National Archives, like everyone knows that that's BS. Like we're getting like South Korea now, where like a president comes out of office and now the new administration harasses and attacks and tries to imprison the old president. And like this is something that the United States has always been above. And now with these Marxists in freaking office, we got to like deal with this now. Like, and then what happens if Trump comes in? Does he have to go after? You know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to, right? You're going to have to go. Someone's got to investigate this madness. Someone's got to investigate what's going on with the DOJ.
Well, the good news is that it's even people that typically go after Trump, they're standing up and saying, "Hey, the DOJ better have a good reason." Andrew Cuomo even tweeted something.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that. I was listening to 770 on the way home from work, and I heard that.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there that recognize that this is going too far. Look, when all is said and done, while we can't say this as a fact, you just look at a preponderance of information, but you look at the amount of people that he's backed, and in terms of the midterm elections, right? And right now, he's got about a 90 to 95% win rate on who he's backed. Well, that in itself is frightening to anybody that's on the other side of the fence, right? And the last thing they want is Trump back in again, because he's really.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, they're afraid of him coming back in, but I feel like it's more than that. Like the fact that they went in looking for. I mean, they're saying they were trashing Melania's closets and like. I just want to know what the hell. Like, if you're an FBI agent, you get assigned to do some obviously corrupt shit like this, like it's corrupt. You have to know it's corrupt. It's like when they sent the FBI after these citizens who showed up at January 6th. And like they didn't do anything when they were there. They didn't do anything crazy. The charges against them were pretty much trespassing, as they were for everybody. And then they show up at their house with like battering ram vehicles and flashbangs and like 50 people. It's like, if you're on these teams and you're the one that they're asking, you're the one that's being used as muscle for the, like, what? Because there's a part of me that's like, all right, well, the FBI is corrupt on the organizational level, right? Like the Comey level, right? Like the highest levels. But then you want to believe that the agents themselves are not dirtbags.
Well, George,
but it's hard to do that when they keep taking orders like this. Like at some point they have to realize.
What would possess an Australian policeman from hitting an 80-year-old woman and knocking her to the ground, or another Australian policeman for throwing a 12-year-old to the ground because she didn't wear a mask? Human beings can be extremely ugly, and there's
nobody, nobody in the entire damn agency. This used to be the poster child of legitimacy in policing agencies. Now, true, it didn't have its greatest beginnings, but like even the mafia was afraid of the FBI. Like even the mafia was like, to get an FBI agent on the take was like, it wasn't impossible, but it was incredibly dangerous and incredibly unlikely. So and so it's not like I don't expect anybody to be a dirtbag. Any agency that has humans in it is going to have some dirtbags in it. But like this looks, I mean, there are like tons of them. Like there are whole SWAT teams that are showing up to arrest a man and his child. I can't help but
it's a leadership thing, George. It's a leadership thing. It's a leadership thing. So let me give you a couple of just real quick examples.
So for their checks, is that what it is? Just so they keep getting a check?
No, I maybe some, but it's a leadership thing. So remember when what's his name? George Floyd, right? So you had all these other police officers standing around, and some of them came back later and said they wanted to say something, but the guy that was in charge was doing it, and he was surrounded by some other senior people, so they never said a word, okay? So, so that could be one example. the fact of the matter is, when you're in the military, when you're in these various services, it's all rank and file. And you are taught from day one to take orders. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be people that aren't going to turn around and say, no, I'm out.
But we can't find one.
Huh? Well,
this is what's baffling me. Like to me, like I could even see a mass formation psychosis forming in an organization like that. I could see that, but it's just like at some point, like, are there not 2 or 3 or 4? Like, there are hundreds of these people. Like, there's not, like, all it takes is 3 or 4 to blow a whistle.
Well, hey, look at Snowden, right? In the NSA, they're there. George, they are there, just like they're at Google, just like they're at Facebook.
But Snowden wasn't engaging in it. So he was like on IT security or whatever and was grabbing information. These people are actually pulling guns on people and and raiding people's homes. Like, they're actively participating in this insanity.
Yeah,
and there's not one of them who thinks this is wrong. I need to say something. Like,
no,
is the fear that great? I guess. I don't know. Karen Worry says IRS, DOJ, EPA, DOE, yeah, DHS, the alphabet soup, right? Even State Department targeting Americans. Yeah, they sure have. They sure have been, and it's look, they've been weaponizing the government now for how long, right? It's like, it's ridiculous. And just, back to that point, Jack, it's it just bugs me out that friggin' nobody steps up. Like,
yeah, but at what point do they step up? You decide what hill you're going to die on when you're in a role that, right?
Maybe, but I would think that people that have a lifetime, like, there have to be some agents who actually believed when they came in that the agency was a force for good. You know what I mean? Like, there had to be. There had to be some people involved in the.
There still are. There still are.
How could you be, though? How would you convince yourself of that? That's what I can't wrap my head around. Is how do you convince yourself of that? Like, if you're in the agency, how do you not know? You know more than I know if you're in the agency. So how do you convince yourself that this is all on the up and up? Is it that you have Trump dysphoria and you're just, Trump, and you just can't get past it, and you just think anything that happens to Donald Trump is justified? Like, there's no way the entire agency is that way. There's no way.
I agree. That's what I've been saying. I don't believe it is. Now, I can't tell you. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I've given you a few examples. I'm sure there's people
like, what the hell? I ain't Freud over here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you expect of me. Let me see. Let me reach out to the cosmic universe and tap somebody's brain. No, I don't know. I don't know. I can give you certain scenarios where it can continue on for a while, and then there are people that'll be reaching breaking points, i.e., January 6th and the Capitol Police and the subsequent suicides, right? All of a sudden they have a rash of suicides, and so maybe some of those people couldn't bear the burden of what they knew, right? Or maybe they were offed by whoever.
Well, that's like SEAL Team 6.
With an S.
That's like SEAL Team 6 with
right.
that killed Bin Laden. Like, really? The whole SEAL Team 6 that killed Bin Laden is dead, and we're going to pretend that that's an accident. This stuff has been going on for so long, and it's becoming to the point where it's like, if it weren't so serious, it would be laughably obvious. But now it's evolved to the point of going into and harassing former presidents. Like, this is next level. This has never happened. Like, this type of harassment, like ongoing assault on a former president, has never, and it's going to continue if he gets into office. If he wins in 2024, they're not going to let it go. Like, the only thing, look, we'll see how much control the states have taken back from the elections, but unless it is all Republican, and unless we're talking, a minority of these Marxists. I mean, if we get Mansions and people like that in there, that's fine. But like, that's not who keeps getting elected. Who keeps getting elected are the AOCs and those freaks. And they're just gonna constantly bring chaos, constantly.
Yeah,
And
the thing is, when I look at someone like AOC, she believes all of it. She believes what she's doing, and she really has no idea that she's a puppet. I mean, she's been indoctrinated, and she's following that doctrine to the T, so much so that she sat down with a group of transgender, transvestites, whatever.
God, the whole world's transgender these days, huh?
Yeah, and said you're all patriots, right? She believes that. She believes all of this. When she was running around on that,
those who are indoctrinated are all in. Like
right.
That's why I did those episodes on like mass formation psychosis and like Dr. Matthias Desmet and like the way that all breaks down, because those people are all in. Like we started talking about that with the ideological subversion from Yuri Bezmenov back in in those videos, and we've used Yuri a ton of times, right? He's on our YouTube intro video. First thing is Yuri. So I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, and the mass formation psychosis is real. That's not a and it's not just these Marxists, but that's the tool that they use for these Marxists. And now they have 2 to 3 generations who really buy into this. They really think the world's going to end in 10 years or 15 years, or if they don't listen to these NWO freaks, if they don't listen to the folks at Davos, then the consequence of that will be death by, mass extinction in 12, 15 years. But if you do listen to the folks at Davos, and if you hop on one leg and move around in a circle and go backwards 2 steps and forward, you will save the planet. And literally, if they asked them to do that, you would see that 30% of the population jumping in the street on one leg, hopping backwards, doing whatever, going in a circle. Because like when they talked about that mass formation psychosis, like the more irrational, the better. Like they will do absolutely anything that is asked of them from the source of the solution to their anxiety, which in this case would be the folks at Davos. So like, it's crazy stuff. But Roberts' dossier lying for FISA warrants. How can they get away with this? And they keep going. What the hell? Yeah, exactly. They just keep going. It's like, I'm so tired of hearing people be like, I'm very disappointed by this. This is very discouraging. This is, it's like, what the, like, it's friggin' illegal. like how is nobody getting arrested ever? Like, it's so blatant that everyone's corrupt that I'm just like scratching. I mean, this started for me. Well, it started before this, but one of the bigger ones for me was Comey getting up on a friggin' stage, listing off all the stuff that they found on Hillary Clinton. And I'm sitting there watching it like thinking, oh my God, this is going to be history. They're actually going to indict Hillary Clinton. And then after listing everything that she was guilty of and that they had evidence that she was guilty of, he's like, yeah, but no reasonable attorney would ever take this up. And I was just like, I was like, what? Like, that's not your call. Like, what the hell's going on here? But it's like, but they say it comfortably. Like they ain't gonna do anything. No one's gonna do anything. We do whatever we want, and no one's gonna do anything. And this, my friend, is why we advocate for what we advocate for, right? This is why, like if this situation is not something top of the docket for Convention of States when these delegates get selected, because they will get selected, like this is going to happen. And when it happens, if this is not on the topic, like this has to be dealt with. Like this, I don't know. I'm open to suggestions on how to deal with this in a way, because it has to be craftily worded to be broad, sweeping, and short. The more words you put into the thing, the more loopholes people find around it. Like, there need to be some sweeping language that just puts an end to this crap. And I don't care if it means once a president gets out, you can't touch him. Like, I'd rather have that than have a situation like Korea where every president is trying to arrest the former president, et cetera. Like I'd rather have that. I'd rather just be happy that if the guy was bad, get him out and just move on to the next one. And it is what it is. But something's got to be done regarding that. And Sylvia says,
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. We can get to the comment. It ain't going anywhere.
All right. Yeah. So I think I lost my point. Go ahead. Read the comment. Let me think about my point.
All right. So it says brown shirts trying to provoke a civil war, shot down elections. So I'm not the brown shirts. I'm yellow shirts, yellow jackets, or whatever. I'm familiar with brown. I'm not. Is this who are the brown shirts, Jack? Are you aware?
I am not. I mean, it's got to be from Europe.
I'm sure.
Or the Eastern Bloc.
They're not that popular. I put up. I looked up brown shirts, and I just got a bunch of people in brown shirts.
Oh, Venezuela.
Oh, okay, Venezuela. Yeah. All right, so
Nazi police, brown shirts.
Oh, okay. All right, that's a new term. You learn something every day. So yeah, it was Nazi police. She's saying it's okay. So yeah. So the education system is on the list as well. Yeah, hell yeah, the education system's on. He's talking about college there. Education system sure as hell is on the list. Hell yeah. Look, for everybody, the reason why I've gotten, aside from the fact that it's creepy as hell, the reason why I have really kind of taken my portion of the shows over to the Great Reset and the videos that I put out and the live stuff that I do. And, Jack, you got kind of a wider, array of stuff that you cover, but like I'm more kind of pigeonholed into, Convention of States and Great Reset. It's like, really, those are the two things that I keep driving me nuts. And the reason they do is because, one is the largest problem we face, and the other, to me, is the greatest solution we have. And like, so with those two things together, I will say that I'm particularly disturbed by this Trump home rating thing, just from the standpoint of the DOJ just really thinking it can do whatever it wants, that it's bigger than presidents. Like it's bothering me. If they don't have a damn good reason for having gone in there, then I'm going to have a serious problem with that. But like in general, but even that gets solved, right? Like even that can be addressed through Convention of States. And it just baffles me that so many don't understand it, right? That they don't understand. And it does take some effort, right? Like you don't just, like we heard about it, thought it was too good to be true, right? And then we're kind of questioning it. And we kind of went through the Cause website and we went through Cause University and we, but then they started coming at us with the runaway stuff and we kind of toggled through that and, but you got to keep going and weighing the sides to realize the historical context. So it's a little bit of work, to be able to figure out the fear mongering and get past it and whatever. But like, but really it is the way, is it not? I mean, in the end, what else takes sweeping change like that? Right? Like, think about it. Imagine a set of proposals come out and the states ratify fiscal restraints. Imagine all in one day. Well, I don't know if it would all be in one day, but let's say over the course of a month, whatever it may be that they vote, on these different, because they're probably going to debate on each one. So it'll depend on how many proposals and whatever. But let's just say in a short period of time, right? All of a sudden, you're no longer paying income tax, right? Like all of a sudden, the federal government has to balance the budget. All of a sudden, critical race theory, critical theory, all this Marxist stuff in schools, gone. Poof, right? Gone. It's almost like you'd walk out into like a wonderland.
Well, to me, George, the most all of a sudden moment would be all of a sudden the people of the United States realize that they really do have power. That's what's missing right now. People feel powerless, right? And the world is extremely chaotic. And what happens when things become chaotic? People are looking for somebody to save them. They don't know what to do. They want to bring balance and order to the chaos, and they want someone to do that for them. They do not realize that they have the capability to do it, but it takes the unity on a scale that we've never had. However, continued exposure, like what we're doing, and certainly what Cause is doing, that type of exposure is going to raise the awareness. Then the trick will be, who are we going to convince versus who is George Soros going to convince, right? And that's why you and I especially try not to keep on talking Republican and Democrat. Why? Because we really need to get rid of that barrier, right? We can still have our differences on a variety of
Marxists
topics.
and Americans.
Yeah, but we need to get rid of that barrier. We need to get together underneath a common cause. And that common cause is a federal government that is really encroaching on everyone's lifestyle, and the left is waking up to it right along with the right. But we have ways to go.
That's why I categorize them as Marxists and Americans. Like
Yeah,
I don't see it as Democrats and Republicans, because in the end, like when you look at the polling, right? If you look at the polling, over 50%, it's slightly over 50% of Democratic voters, not the politicians. Politicians and media are trying to make it a partisan issue, but the voters are not seeing it that way. More than 50% of Democrat voters are in support of the amendments. All right.
Yeah.
And what is it? 60+% of independents, and then Republicans is like 81%. But the fact is, there's a majority of all, and in the end, I'll bet the number's even higher for Democrats. Like, I'll bet there's even more. I would bet that number is closer to 60 or 70. Like, again, I talk about that. I talk about that 30% that's indoctrinated. Like the Democrats, not all Democrats are Marxists, but all Marxists are definitely Democrats. And in the end, how big of a portion of that party have they taken up is kind of up in the air. But like, I do believe, because I mean, right now, if you look at it, the definitions are getting blurry from the standpoint, like there's people calling Bill Maher a conservative. Like, is he becoming conservative? Because he's speaking out against all these doo-doo-doos with the transgender and the woke this and the woke that, and my feelings are hurt and whatever. So they're actually like, that guy is not a conservative. I don't care how far you want to stretch the word conservative. There is nothing. It's not a conservative opinion to think that all that stuff is nonsense. It's not a conservative opinion. It's a common sense opinion.
Yeah.
But they make it a conservative one, because that's the boogeyman they created.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, conservative. Think about it. If you watch the news, there's never, or even read websites and whatever else, there's never mention of conservative talker, it's always far right. Like, it's not like right wing, it's far right. What is it? There's another term for it that they always use.
Alt-right.
Like, what? Alt-right. Yeah, the alt-right. Like, what the hell is that? Like honestly, like the alt-right, there's almost like nobody involved in that. And I wanted to get to this quote, though. Exactly, Robert brought up, talking about Trump. Exactly, if he announced he wouldn't run, they would leave him alone. I hope he has Epstein's list. You know what? Me too. Like, if he has Epstein's list, dude, like, that could be, that could be the type of thing that would make the DOJ send the friggin' FBI to his house to try and get. Because think about it, right? He's taking them all down with that list. Like, they're all going down with that list. There's no, I mean, he's got it'd be friggin' Prince Andrew. Like, they're all going. Like, the entire global network would get caught up in that one, dude. Like, oh, that would be epic. That would be epic. That would, epic.
Oh,
What does
jeez.
it say? He's on Epstein, you Muppets. I don't know what that means. All right.
I don't know.
We got Epstein is now coming up. Oh, God. So I think the Democrat-Republican battle is healthy. The Marxists are trying to take over the Democratic Party. Yeah, and that's Democrats and Republicans debate things like unions or abortion or like there are differences between Democrats and Republicans, right? Democrats generally want the government to be involved more, but they're not Marxist, right? Like Marxists are Marxists. Like that's who's Marxist. Like Marxism, these people want the government to absolutely control everything. Like there's limits. They a classic liberal is still a staunch defender of free speech. Like it wasn't
Right.
that long ago that the religious right was all about video games being banned and getting rid of all this stuff, and the left being like no, it's free speech, like fight. And it's funny how that just flips around. And now it's like it's all conservatives about. But I think both sides, leaving the Marxist out of the equation, I think both sides have kind of morphed a little bit to the center. I think there's a push right now for most Americans to really, really rally around the Constitution in general, and kind of, if you haven't been indoctrinated or you've grown up, one or the other, right? If you haven't been indoctrinated or you've grown up, then you know what the history of the United States is. You know what American exceptionalism is. You know what America has meant to this world. Despite the discretions of our government, this nation and its philosophy and its ideals have changed world history forever. And those are ideals that everyone can relate. Like people go, oh, we don't, you can't force your beliefs on anyone else. Like seriously, if we forced our constitution on another country, we'd have to leave because we'd be like, oh yeah, well, they have rights that are endowed by their creators, so we can't really mess with that. Their government's handling it all. We got to go. It's like it's like you can't even take them over if you put our constitution in place. We'd like have ourselves legally removed. So but in the end, I'm not about forcing it on anybody. I'm just saying it has been a beacon of light for the world for a very long time. And when the crap hits the fan, right, it's the freest people who fight the hardest. And in the end, those who are fighting for freedom have always beaten those who are fighting for a leader or by force. So in the end, there's a reason why we are who we are. And the brilliance of our document really is exemplified by Convention of States, by the fact that there was so much forethought put into it, so much preparation to know that we would have to know 250 years ago we'd be here today. Right?
Well, and they came from that, Our founders were born out of tyranny. And so coming from that environment, you could easily, not easily, but they had, let's say, the background, right? Like as you age, you have experience. They had the experience, the life experience to recognize what and how it could go wrong and to set up provisions so that we would be able to recapture some of those freedoms that were going to be taken away. And, we haven't done it yet, but we're on the march and it is going to happen. And by the
We're
way,
19 states in, man. I'm dying. Pennsylvania's going to pop any freaking week now, dude.
Yeah.
One way or the other, they're going to go down. So, I mean, and I'll tell you, if Pennsylvania gets on board, man, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And and it wasn't long ago that Meckler was saying, Mark Meckler, president of the Convention of States, was saying that he had actually had a couple of people reach out from the Pennsylvania Senate and House who felt really confident that it would pass. Now it's going to be in a battle there. There's no doubt, because there are Marxists, that are going to fight it. There's no doubt about it. but I'm confident that it can pull through in Pennsylvania. Like I see that as being a state that should look good. And honestly, if you live in Pennsylvania and you're watching this broadcast, get out, get to the website, click on the sign the petition link, get yourself registered, let them send the letter to your state representative, and then write your own handwritten letter to your state representative. Why handwritten? Because everybody reads a handwritten letter. If you get a handwritten letter in the mail, you opening that thing and you're reading that thing. I don't care if it's written in crayon. You're opening that thing and you're reading that thing because somebody sat down and took the time to handwrite that letter, and you want to know what's in it.
And they will read it, yeah. And for a second, I wasn't sure where you were going with that, George, because you go, and if you are from Pennsylvania, get out. And then you pause. I'm thinking, where do you want to go?
Yeah,
Florida?
Get off of this broadcast.
Yeah.
I need to get out and fight, folks. Yeah.
I thought you would like get out of Pennsylvania, go to Florida, get out. Go out to Pennsylvania.
We love the great state of Pennsylvania, man. I love all the colonial states, to be honest. Like I think it's amazing to go through and just look at history, like even Virginia, and like when you're looking at Jamestown, or even back in Philly with the Liberty Bell and the different historical structures, you can feel that colonial vibe when you're walking through some parts of Philly. So like, hey, it's Michael Arnold. So he's been having it. This is Michael Arnold. This is the state director of Convention of States in Massachusetts, which they did pass committee twice there because of this man's leadership and his phenomenal grassroots team. So he finally can comment. It's not on his laptop, strange, but you guys are on point tonight. Thanks, Mike. And yeah, so Mike's been trying to comment forever and not been able to do it, but it looks like it's a weird issue through the desktop version of YouTube. So, but always good to hear you, Mike. Always good to see you on. We definitely got to do another interview, another get together on here for sure. Let me see. We got a question here. Duchamp Srook. Duchamp Rook. Maybe that's what it is. So, do you believe Trump is innocent and broke no laws?
Let me answer that one. Let me answer
what?
So I guess that I hate to answer a question with a question, but that's not what we're driving at. The point is not his innocence. The point is they are targeting him on a variety of levels, and each and every time they have targeted him, they've come up empty-handed. And so here they go again. And yet, at the same time, we know for a fact that they had a tremendous amount of evidence on Hillary Clinton. They have a tremendous amount of evidence on Hunter Biden, but nothing is being done on those fronts. So let's move the focus off of Trump for a moment and defending whether he's guilty of anything. Do you not find it?
Charge him with anything. That's why I'm like innocent of what?
But I'm asking him a question. Do you not find it suspicious that when we have people that we have evidence that are on one side of the political system, we have evidence of guilt, but we're not pursuing that, and yet we're pursuing people on the other side of the aisle? Don't you ever stop and ask yourself why? Forget whether you like the man or not. It's not about liking him. There's things about him that I don't like at all. And but the fact of the matter is that just look at the fact that they're going after him. Doesn't that tell you anything? Doesn't that tell you how our federal government and our various organizations, the DOJ, FBI, how they're focusing their attention in one particular way and not another at all? It's got to mean something to you, and I'm not going to fill that blank in.
They're clearly weaponized. There's no doubt about that. And as far as him being innocent, like you said, it's not about that. He hasn't been charged with anything. They literally just keep showing up at his freaking house with new subpoenas and new this, new that, new this, new that. They're ripping through his wife's clothing. It's like, what the hell are they? Are they? They never have come up with anything. And that's the thing. If you're not like, if you're gonna do that kind of stuff, like if you're gonna go and raid an ex-president's home, like you better be freaking tight on what you're gonna, like, this whole idea that they could just walk into a former president's home and tear it to shreds, looking for on a fish hunt and not coming out of there with anything is unacceptable. Like, that's not acceptable. If you're going to go into an ex-president's house, I don't care if they did this to Bill Clinton, I'd be just as pissed. You don't go into an ex-president's house and just tear it to shreds and not come out with anything. Like, you need to, all that back work needs to be done. You're the freaking FBI. You're the Department of Justice for the United States of America. You don't just start stabbing in the dark because of politics to go after people. Like, that's just insane. That's insane. And it's the fact that it's not like that's an isolated incident, though. It's all of these things that they've been doing. I mean, 18 months on this friggin' investigation with Russia, and they came up with nothing. Not one charge. They arrested almost everybody that ever met Donald Trump, but they had nothing on Donald Trump. Like, they literally shook down every single person that so much as shook his hand, and they came out with nothing on Donald Trump. And it's like, you know what? If you come up with something, then I entertain your nonsense. You know,
in the end, I think Trump summed it up the best. They're not coming after him. They're coming after us.
Right? Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They're coming after us.
And that is true. I mean, in the end, look, you know, Tom McDonald writes about this in his songs a lot. It's like, everyone needs this. The government needs this Democrat, Republican constant fighting, because if they're ever, and this is why, again, bringing it back to convention of states, like this, like, because it's one of those issues that can unify everybody, it's incredibly dangerous. Like if you think about it, term limits for all federal officials. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants that. Not everybody, but a majority on all sides of the aisle want that. And so, you know, fiscal restraints on the government, everybody wants that. Right? So it's like, and then government overreach. Again, everybody wants that. What do you think? You think when they were whacking people for not getting vaccinated, you think they were checking if they were Democrats first? No. There were plenty of Democrats who didn't want to take that vaccine and lost their jobs and had their lives severely disrupted. Everybody is on board with these things.
Right.
Everybody is on board with these things.
The American people are being targeted. And, you know, I'll tell you one thing, and I know we're getting close on time, but I do, we're past time, but I do want to just bring something up for your consideration, George. You said we'll be fine as far as the food situation is concerned, right?
Yeah, by the way, Jack, so don't worry. I own the show. I'll give you more time. We're kind of running this thing, right?
That's true. That's true. I just, for respect for everyone that's watching, but I'm not convinced that we are not just high prices, George, and here in the United States, that we're looking at a shutdown of our food supply. We're having issues with food supply in general. And yes, in some third world countries, it's only going to get worse to the point where more and more people, but you will see issues here in the United States as far as
you will, but it's going to be what I'm saying. Like, it's not that there won't be any supply chain issues. The point that I'm making is just, you'll eat. You're not going to starve to death. You're just not going to eat what you want all the time, and you're not going to or if you do eat what you want, you're going to pay, you know, through the freaking nose for it. Like it again, you know, the prices. It's not going to be like, just, you know, oh wow, this steak is awfully high, and no, it's going to be like, holy smack, dude, are they serious? Like when you're looking at like $60 for a 16-ounce ribeye, raw, not like in a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like when you're looking at that kind of stuff, that does change the game significantly.
Well,
And that's really what I meant.
well, yes, but at the same time, when you have a food shortage, there's a tremendous amount of people that work in the food services industry, right? When that shortage occurs, think of all the restaurants that'll go out of business. Who's going to go to a steakhouse, right? For what was a $30 steak is now a $130 steak, if you can even get your hands on it. You're looking at a lot of people going back out on the unemployment line, right? You're looking at a lot of issues that are going to arise out of this, and I think that it'll be much more complicated than I guess we could even envision right now, because everything is a domino effect, right? And there are unseen consequences of one particular issue striking, and we don't know what those consequences are. Now, I'm sure sitting back over in Switzerland at Davos, they're looking at all of those consequences, and they have the time on their hands to analyze them. I don't, but I do believe that we are going to see a domino effect. Could it lead to starvation? Perhaps. Could it lead to death? Perhaps, in this country. But if you couple that with energy shortages,
starvation in this country.
Well,
everything else you're saying is 100% true, though. It's going to get complicated the way that it destroys the way it trickles down and becomes an issue and branches off into all other kinds of problems. But I mean, look, there's some starvation, and it's bizarre to me to even acknowledge that, but there's some starvation in the country already. That's not going to get exaggerated by any serious means. I mean, in the end, people that can eat today are going to eat tomorrow. Again, the question is, what do you eat, and how much are you paying for it? And the people who aren't going to eat at all, because the United States infrastructure is such where we can produce, even aside from the government, we can produce. Like our local rural areas will feed themselves. Like they won't even be worried about about any of this. It's our urban centers that are going to have these issues.
Where the bulk of the people are. Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. But in the end, like what's going to happen? It's not like the farms can't, because passing those nitrate rules here is going to be a lot harder than doing it in the Netherlands, and it's because of the way the system works. Like you're just going to have states being like, we're not doing it. You know what I mean? Like there's nowhere in the Netherlands that could be like, nah, I don't think we're going to do that. Why? Because it's stupid. And that's it. End of story. Done. Like it's very difficult for them to get, look, marijuana is still illegal, technically. But yeah, you go to these states, right? I go up, I could drive 25 minutes. There's a store. I had to go because I had to see what a weed store would look like. And it's like an Apple store. It's like crazy. There's like display cases with these like little fancy freaking stands with like a bud of weed sitting on the stand. This is something that's illegal federally, right? But like they're friggin' showcasing it, like they got all these like pens and like all these like it's just nuts. It's nuts. That's for something that's federally illegal. Why? Because the state said, we're done. We don't want to do that anymore. And the federal government just goes, all right, Dad. Right? That's what it comes down to, right? The federal government is the state's child. It's not the other way around. People get that twisted because federal law trumps state law, but it really doesn't. Like in the end, it does. But in the end, if a state decides, we're not going to do it, the government has no recourse. They have no recourse. There's nothing. They're not going to do anything in response to that, and they never have, because in the end, again, it's the states who created the federal government, not the other way around. So there's no element where if a state really doesn't want to do something, that somehow they just have to do it. I love this comment, Department of Just Us.
Yeah. I think the only place that it comes into play is in terms of constitutionality. If a state violates the U.S. Constitution, there's likely to be recourse there.
Right. That's true. If a state is out there openly violating the Constitution, but like none of this stuff is constitutional. Like none of this stuff is a constitutional issue. So in essence, you know, like saying you want to reduce nitrates or whatever, that has nothing. That's not a constitutional issue. So the states can just turn around and use I guess you'd call it nullification, and just not, you know, just not do it. And he says here, Hannity on his show. Henry said on his show, term limits are a bad idea. That shows that cause, I think he meant cause, is not partisan. Yeah, it does show that Convention of States is not partisan because there are, look, you know, Hannity, I don't really watch Hannity. So I mean, I used to years and years ago, and I kind of came to the conclusion that I kind of know what he's going to say before he says it. And I just didn't, it lost its entertainment value for me. But in the end, like, people like Hannity are in the machine, you know? It's like Brett Baer, you know? Like they're inside the machine. Like they've been hobnobbing with these politicians for, you know, getting them on interviews, like all the Republican politics. Like Hannity still believes, you know, this can all be fixed through elections. This can all be, like, in his head, that's his core belief system. Like, he thinks that there's someone we can elect or some group of people. If we have a red wave, that's going to, like, how many times do red waves have to get nothing accomplished before he realizes that the problem is bigger than who you're putting into, like the system is changing them. They're not changing the system.
And the problem is on both sides.
Evident.
Look how many people how many Americans died in the Middle East for what, right? Now, most of them, they're coming back. They're committing suicide. They have drug issues. Why? Because they realized the only thing they had to fight for over there was to keep each other alive.
Right.
And so,
yeah, in the beginning, it was kind of a noble cause. Like in the very beginning.
It was hyped. It was hyped to be that way.
Yeah,
but they got over there and found
think
out.
There was an element that we had to kind of look. I'm not on the bandwagon of people that think Bush.
Yeah, well, I'm speaking for military guys that I know that went over there and fought for years. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you theirs, and they were there.
Yeah, and I gotta accept that because.
Yeah, and they feel used and abused. And they get very little in return for it, and they were sent over there by Republicans. So you know, when you say there's no red wave that's going to save us, guess what? They're just part of the machine as well, right? It's not about red and blue. It's about we the people. We need to stop being divided by color, whether red and blue, black and white, all of this crap that keeps us discussing worthless topics. They're important topics, but they're worthless until
we can still argue.
We gain control back over
those topics. Yeah, we could still debate those topics and then still agree on bigger issues. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that, and that's what, you know. That's the point. Like, okay, let's call it, you know, we'll agree to disagree on abortion. But you know what? As far as term limits and friggin', you know, and government overreach and fiscal restraints, we should be able to agree on that. Like that, you know, regardless, you know, maybe, all right, you're on the left, you like unions. I don't. You know what? That's fine. That's got nothing to do with it. Doesn't mean we can't agree on term limits and fiscal restraints and friggin' overreach. Like the idea, you know, like you're religious or I'm religious, you're not. That's fine. We don't have to agree on that. But we do. Doesn't mean we can't agree on those other like in the end, these issues are bigger than what.
Right. We can agree on freedom of speech, right? And that's what works.
Not with the Marxists, you can't.
No, I know. But I think those are the things we're talking about. There are overarching big picture issues that the American public needs to focus in on, and we're being played to focus in on piddly things. And when I say piddly, yes, they're important, but they are not at the level and at the scale that our freedom of press, our freedom of speech, they're not at that scale, because without those, all the rest of them go out the window anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Mike Arnold made a point here I wanted to get to, because I was actually about to make the same point. He said the Tea Party movement proved red wave doesn't work. And I was going to mention that, because Mark Meckler, who, if people aren't aware, was a co-founder of the Tea Party, and he tells the story of like how excited they were that they got, and it was a brilliant strategy. I mean, they went after the primaries. I remember being in awe of how impressive that strategy was, because you don't need as many people to swap a primary, and you really, the zombies are going to show up red and blue. They're just going to click the R, and if it's McConnell, then it's McConnell. If it's they're going to click, they're just going to click the R. They don't show up to the primaries. So why not put your person? Why not take them out in the primary and put your person in there? So when they all show up, it's not like Kentucky's going to vote blue because there's someone different in the R, So in the end, not that we ever got McConnell out. I probably shouldn't use him as an example. I wish we did. But in the end, all those people got elected and they went in, and almost immediately just gotten eaten alive by the machine. Almost immediately. And it's like, you look at them now, and they're not even recognizable to the reason why they were brought to power. And it's just an example of the government being structurally broken, and it not being a problem with the actual. You're not good, no matter who you find, no matter how trustworthy, you could know them personally their whole life. When they get in there, I'm not saying they're going to come out being a doo-doo, but that when they get in there, they're not going to be able to get things done, and they're going to become a part of the Borg, if you will.
Well, the Borg. Do you remember the little Star Trek action going on the Borg? Do you remember when Tulsi Gabbard was on? I think it was Joe Rogan, and she was talking about the first day, and when she gets there, and they said, "Okay, Republicans over here and Democrats over here," and they had and she goes, and basically you had a handler that came out and said, "Okay, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to think. This is how you're going to act. This is what you're going to believe in." And it was immediate, indoctrinizing these folks. This is the way it works. We've been here forever, and we're going to tell you. Otherwise, you won't get anything accomplished.
Yeah.
That's what she faced. Right, day one, right?
That's how it works.
Yeah,
that's how
you go in and you think, "Oh, I want to help my country. I want to do this." You know what? You want to help your country? Work at the state level. Be a state legislator if anyone's out there and wants to get into politics. That's where you'll make your impact. Right now, the federal government, it's a boat with a hole in it, and it'll keep floating, because it just keeps pouring money down that hole, and its people right along with it.
Yeah, for sure. And in the end, like, look, we're gonna we'll plug the hole, right? We'll plug the hole, but we're gonna have to throw a few people out of the boat, right? like there's part of the reason why that ship keeps sinking is just too many bad people in it. So in the end, the term limits piece will fix that, because they're not always bad. Right? They usually go in with good intentions and good, it's after the 15 years, 20 years, then it becomes like, well, I know this guy from here. I've networked with this guy from here. I know these lobbyists. This guy knows blah, blah, blah. I can use him to manipulate him, to move him, to make him do that. And then you start going down that rabbit hole, and then you start becoming a garbage human being. You don't even know that it happened to you.
And it happens at every level. Look at what just our limited exposure on social media, right? So I was watching a broadcast the other day, and they're talking about the algorithms and saying that right now you really have to start using clickbait titles and to grab attention. And I've noticed a lot of the YouTube channels I've been following, pardon me, they've been using a lot of clickbait, like overhyped titles to get people to jump in, right?
Right.
So what are you doing? Why am I bringing that up? Because what you're doing is you may have come into this YouTube channel and you and we want to help to promote cause and we have, good intentions, right? But we need to build our subscribers. So, maybe we should start using these clickbait titles, right? It's human nature.
Sure.
That's what our founders knew. It doesn't matter if it's politics, running a YouTube channel, running a grocery store. At some level, there are people that are going to move things around and manipulate things for greater positioning and for greater power. Our founders knew that was part of human nature. And that's what we're defending against, is our own inner beast, so to speak. It's not just them, it's us, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in the end, though, like I was thinking this through, and I'm saying to myself, once these, assuming the amendments go well, and everything comes through, and everything that we could hope for gets ratified, I mean, that's a lot of hoping, right? So I'm guessing there will be some disappointments once the process is done. My major win in this process is just the process. It's just the fact that the process goes through and that all these runaway convention doo-doo-doos are done. You know what I mean? So that if we can call another one later and redo the process. But but when I look at how these, when I look at how the government operates now, if we can get these through, all right, especially the government overreach pieces, right? I was talking about this with someone, and they had said to me, well, the regulatory agencies, they need that because they have so much to do. And I thought to myself, not when we're done with them. Right? like that was kind of my whole point, was like, once we get them out of education and get them out of, they have no place in work safety, and they have no place in any of these things. These are all local issues. And the fact of the matter is, once they're out of all that, they don't have that much to do. They've got to deal, they may have some international stuff that they have to vote on and things of that nature. Maybe, but the reality of the matter is they don't have any business in those other areas. So it's like, once they're permanently locked out of them, there's plenty of, they're not going to want to be, they're not going to want to be there for 30 years, 40 years. They'll freaking die of boredom being there for 30, 40 years. There's no one to manipulate. It's like there's no, I mean, you get rid of the income tax, you can't return favors anymore. Companies are no longer interested in you. Right? Now it's just, it's consumable. There are tariffs, at that point. So it's like, you can't do any of that stuff. So, once that passes, there's so much less for them to do, to be engaged with, that it's no longer going. The president can focus on foreign policy. The president will not have to get his neck into every, I'm writing an executive order for this, executive order, like all that stuff will be done. Right. They can just put their focus elsewhere where it's supposed to be. If there's some true interstate commerce dispute, not like this BS that they've extended the Commerce Clause to mean, but an actual dispute between two states. All right, yeah, Congress can come in and arbitrate that, like things of that nature. But that's it. That's all they should be involved in. There's really not a lot that they were designed to do. There really isn't.
Well, we need to take that first step, and that's where the convention comes in. We have to execute on that, and I want to see that happen before I die, to know that that's in play for my kids and their kids. So, hey,
I concur.
I got to pull the plug soon. My mom is recently out of the hospital.
I was actually just going to say, we're already coming up on the hour and a half mark. So I do appreciate everybody who jumped on. We had great engagement today. Everyone everyone getting in on it. I am going to be coming out with that video for with the third part of that from their In Their Own Words series for WEF. And then also I am going to be releasing, I'm not, Jack, you could talk about what you got coming down, but I'm also going to be releasing some quick hit videos on Article 5. The first one is just going to be a quick explainer as to what Article 5 is. But then each one after that is going to ask one particular question about Article 5 and then answer just that one question. And then so what I'm saying is, if anyone is watching live, anyone catches this later, etc., if you have a question about Article 5, like just something that you're curious about, something someone else told you that doesn't seem to make sense, leave it in the comments or hit us up with it, and I will do one of the quick hit videos on it, because I'm going to be grabbing at questions that I'm going to be using frequently asked questions. So if you have anything that you were not sure how it works or anything like that, then by all means hit me up with it, and I'll be more than happy to put that out there in video form so that you can, utilize it to help teach someone else. All right. Jack, you got anything before I go?
Yeah. So this is for the cause folks. So I'm talking with the director for cause for New Jersey, and we're putting together a format, and then we're putting together a list of potential cause directors, maybe social media warriors, a variety of different.
You got one commenting right here.
Yeah, I see. And so what we're trying to do on Wednesday nights is we want to put together a forum for cause, and we think that can be successful. We're still working those details out, but I wanted to share it with the cause folks that are listening in right now. That's what I've been focusing in on lately.
There you go. There you have it. So there will never be a shortage of cause information coming from this channel. So, definitely if you don't know much about cause, subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's plenty of video material in there. Most of it is categorized to Article 5. Definitely check out our website. Check out conventionestates.com. There's a link to sign the petition from either of those. And other than that, Jack, if you got nothing else, I think we're out.